Come in, please. KT McFarland, former Trump Deputy National Security Advisor. KT, I read your stuff, I read your book, and I know that you are looking to the other side, beyond the virus, beyond the impact of the virus. And I want to break it down because you know the world. I want to break it down to the impact on Europe and on Russia, Iran, and China. Let me start with Europe.
Okay.
I think you believe that Europe's going to break up over this, correct?
Oh, yeah, the European Union was established so that countries would not have to have borders, so people could move freely, business could move freely, money could move freely. Well, what's now happened? Every one of those countries is putting up roadblocks and barriers to prevent people from either entering their country or leaving their country. So the whole purpose of the European Union, I think, is really collapsed, particularly because the European Union was so slow to respond to this. It was individual countries that did it, not the European Union. So they're finished. Next.
Yeah, actually, I've been have had it translated. The Italian press, they are really angry at the rest of Europe because they've contributed nothing as Italy was really sinking fast. Okay, so the EU breaks up. I could see that coming a mile off. Let's turn to Russia. Now, we've got all kinds of video of Putin in a hazmat suit, having been close to somebody who tested positive. But I'm more interested in Russia's economy. I think you believe they're going to be in dire straits, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Russia was in bad shape to start with as prices of oil went down. It's their major export. It's their major source of income. It's one of the major contributors to their government expenditures. But now that they're in a price war, an oil price war with the Saudis, that the Saudis can probably last longer in this price war than Russia can, I think Russia's in bad shape. I mean, they will ultimately bear the brunt of the Saudis deciding that they want to control the world oil market once again, and they're going to push the Russians out and down. And they're trying, really, the Saudis are really trying to get rid of American fracking. Then they're the last man standing. And then when this coronavirus and world pandemic is over, Saudi Arabia figures it will be once again the world's major source of oil.
Okay, let me move on to Iran. We've talked about this before, KT. I can see regime change there. Can you?
Absolutely. Look, Iran made a lot of mistakes with the pandemic, and they now are having it's really overstretched their not so good in the first place public health system. Secondly, Iran's entire income and economy depends on exporting oil. Between the oil sanctions and now the absolute collapse of the price of oil, what does Iran have? They're going to have to cut government expenditures, cut government spending at a time when they really need more of it. And they've already got a population that's angry, mad at the mullahs, feels that the mullahs have mismanaged the economy. So I think that Iran is really to the tipping point, that within the next, let's say next year or so, that there's a regime change of some sort in Iran. And as far as the United States goes, we either negotiate with the current guys because they want to, or we negotiate with the next guys. The current guys, the current regime has said they don't want any help with the coronavirus. They're going to handle it all on their own. Well, I don't think so.
Okay, now the big one. Look to the other side of the virus, and what is our relationship with China going to look like?
Boy, that's the real question mark. I think when this is over, and it will be over, we need to reassess our relationship with China, and particularly our dependency. You know, think about the United States' advantages in the geopolitical sense. We can feed ourselves. Very few countries in the world can say that. We have an economy where we buy things, we make things, we buy things. We can really have an independent economy to a certain extent. And then finally, we've always, in the military national security field, we've always said we need to make sure our supply chains for military equipment and technology are secure. We now have to add to that pharmaceuticals. We realized for the last 10 or so, 15, 20 years that we were dependent on Middle East oil. We're now energy independent, whatever happens with the price war. But at the final thing, so we can feed ourselves, we have our own energy, we have our own military supplies. The missing link is that we don't have our own pharmaceutical supplies. My guess is we need to rethink the relationship with China in the basis of that. In addition to that, China has not acted like a responsible world power in the way they're, I think, incompetence and duplicity at the beginning of this crisis. We need their help to get through it. But once it's over, I think we need to recheck and rethink how much we trust them, and how much we want to depend on them for our critical national resources and the things that make our nation secure.
KT McFarland, the author of the great book, Revolution, Trump, Washington, and, can't read the last, and We the People. There you go, KT. I got it on the screen. There you go.
Thank you.
KT, yeah, We the People. It's an expression I really enjoy using, actually. We the People. KT, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again real soon, promise.